My oxygen supply was getting cut off. On the day I was born, my umbilical cord got wrapped around my head, and I had to be delivered by emergency C-section. I immediately had to start fighting for my every breath. 9 months before that, at the beginning of my mom's pregnancy, she didn't actually know she was pregnant. She thought she had cancer. So her energy went to, my life is in danger, not to that of, I have to start nurturing a child. For my energy, the experience was being unwanted, unloved, rejected. There's absolutely no blame or fault here. It was just an energetic misunderstanding. Throughout my childhood, I battled severe asthma, a long list of allergies, and I had a tendency to choke on my food, all of which are a direct threat to breath, to being able to breathe. Several times a year, I would have to be saved by my mom doing the Heimlich maneuver on me or being rushed to the hospital because of severe asthma attacks or allergic reactions. In addition to fighting and worrying about every breath, I was in a constant state of hoping I was going to be okay, hoping I was going to survive. This all created a deep-rooted core belief of, in order to survive, I will need to be saved. And this belief went so deep that being saved became my proof of love. And this belief would go on to permeate my life. I'm here today to show you how that always ended in pain, misery, heartache, and emptiness, and to explain why settling for hope is not the answer to learning, transformation, advancement, happiness, and basically anything you want in life. I felt unsafe in the world and in my own body. I never learned to love myself. Instead, I learned I couldn't trust myself. For survival, I was at war with myself. This was also something else. This was the inception point of my purpose in this lifetime, which is clearing of karmic debt from lifetimes past and deep generational healing. Now, beyond all that, my childhood was absolutely amazing. My family was full of love, joy, happiness, laughter. I grew up playing tennis and golf every day, every summer at a local country club in Vermont, and skiing all winter on the nearby mountains. I know what you're thinking. All these tattoos just scream that guy was raised at a country club. Tennis stuck, and it became my passion and my first love. Tennis also became my savior. It gave me something that I didn't naturally feel. It made me feel okay, and it made me feel safe. I played at a highly competitive level until my senior year of college, and there's one match in particular from high school that's always stuck with me. It showed me something. It also started off really badly, and I lost the first set. But at the start of the second set, I made a decision. This moment right now is all that matters. What just happened has no relevance. This right now is a fresh start. So I went on to win the second set, and we were tied. And it was a really hot, humid, sticky North Florida night. We went back and forth in the third set and ended up at 6 games apiece, so we had to play a tiebreaker. Match point came for me. He hits a serve out wide to my forehand, and I reach out wide, and I hit a forehand back, cross court for a winner. My friends rushed the court, and in that moment, I felt something that I didn't even realize was important to me, and I had never experienced before. I felt seen, and I felt acknowledged. Tennis had given me validation and an identity outside of being that very sick kid. Until it didn't. My senior year of college, my tennis coach called me into his office and he said, "Sam, you've been playing tennis basically every day since you were 8 years old. You're burnt out. You're more interested in being a social butterfly," those are his words, "than you are in playing on the tennis team." He wasn't wrong. So that was effectively the end of my tennis career, and it marked a massive shift in the direction of my life. I was totally unaware of this at the time, but there was now a giant tennis court-sized hole inside me. What I was aware of was that my life started to feel out of control, felt chaotic. Without tennis, I had nothing to ground me. I had nowhere to turn for that validation, that identity, and that safety. I got deep into drugs and alcohol, which at first was pretty fun. But in the end, it was definitely not fun. Not for me or for anybody around me. I was chasing the ghost of tennis and what tennis had provided me. I was desperately trying to fill that tennis court-sized void, and I was running from my childhood traumas. To give you an example of how it was going during this time, my friends and family would affectionately call me Hurricane Sam. I would come in like a Category 5 hurricane, leave a trail of wreckage in my wake, and be gone. When I was 30 years old, I met an amazing woman and we fell madly in love. She made me feel incredibly safe, validated, acknowledged. Sound familiar? Yep, she felt just like tennis felt to me. I made her my new savior. Fast forward 3 years, it's 2007 and I'm 33 years old. My new identity was that of a rock star, but if I'm being honest, that's only the glamorous way to describe it. What was really happening was that I was the living, breathing, physical embodiment of chaos. Following a DUI arrest, a trip to rehab that spring, and my continued toxic behavior post-rehab, my girlfriend was done. I fell into a very deep depression. My world was dark, and that darkness was just swallowing me. You see, I had subconsciously defined her love for me to mean that she was responsible for saving me. So when she exited stage left, I felt abandoned, the polar opposite of being saved. And for me, at that time, was a fate worse than death. I made her the Band-Aid on my bullet hole that was my lack of self-love. But there was more than just a lack of self-love here. It was a deeply embedded hatred and resentment of myself. I had decided at a very young age that because of my asthma and allergies, I was a broken human being, and that I was a burden to my family and really the whole world around me. I went to rehab again that fall, hoping that it would save me from the depression and the darkness. It didn't, and nothing changed. So from 2008 to 2010, I bounced up and down the East Coast from Miami to North Carolina, back to South Florida, hoping that the changes of scenery would fix everything and my life would magically stabilize. They didn't, and still nothing changed. Instead, I kept getting arrested. I gave myself oral cancer from excessive binge drinking, and one day, I fell 35 feet off the second story of a bar. Now, you might think this would be enough to at least kick me into action to take a look at my behavior. It wasn't. Not yet, anyway. I was still very comfortable settling at hope, hoping something or someone would swoop in and save me. That was easy. I wasn't actually doing anything to change anything. So in 2010, I decided to try rehab again, but still with the intention of hoping it would save me and solve the problem for me. It didn't do either. More wreckage followed over the next 2 years. 2 more DUIs, a recurrence of the oral cancer. So it's now 2012, and I'm 38 years old. I had managed to stay sober for 11 and a half months. But that all changed when a friend offered me a beer at a football game on September 20th. I said yes. And this kicked off a 2-month-long death spiral. I lost everything. My job, my house, my dog, my car. My friends alienated me. One time I spent 8 nights in jail for another DUI, my last of 6. The grand finale was a no-sleep 4-day drunken disaster that ended at 4 a.m. on November 21st. I was sitting there in the dark at my kitchen table, staring at a pile of cocaine and a bottle of rum, and I was torn between 2 worlds. Do I keep going down this path of hoping something would save me, or do I stop, burn the boats, and take responsibility for changing everything? I was overwhelmed with fear, and I was shaking. It felt awful, and at the same time, it felt freeing. I was scared, but I also felt a sense of relief. This was my ancestors, my spirit guides, shaking me, guiding me onto a new path. I was being shaken awake and I was surrendering to it. I couldn't continue hoping any longer. I didn't even have any hope at this point. That was the last time I would ever take a drink, and it was the first time that I stopped hoping I was going to be saved, and I actually started saving myself. It's also something else. This was my first ever act of true and unconditional self-love. I had no idea what was next. All I knew is that my current direction could not continue. I spent the next 9 months in Utah working on myself, and then in August of 2013, I landed in San Francisco to a very different experience than ever before. I was scared, but instead of running, I was showing up. True courage is looking at the one thing that scares you the most and not looking away. John Wayne put it like this: courage is being scared to death and saddling up anyway. I was saddling up, and I wasn't looking away. All the way back to birth, even before that, really, I had actually manifested spaces, situations, environments that I needed to be saved from because that was my proof of external love. That was how I mattered. All that was over. It was time to start healing. On my healing journey, I've used things like shamanic breath work, a deep spiritual connection, consistent meditation, past life regression therapy, and more recently I've gotten into using psychedelic medicines to facilitate further and deeper healing. Now, all those things I just mentioned are great, but they're just tools. Without integration and incorporating the new knowledge, the wisdom, the behaviors, they're all useless. So the real bedrock of my healing was a shift from a perpetual state of hoping I was going to be saved to a state of believing I was the one responsible for saving myself. I took a hard look at my shadows, all the reasons I didn't love myself. I found the roots of what was fueling my anxiety, depression, and destructive toxic behavior. Flipping from hope to belief and taking ownership means that you stop asking why things always happened to you, and you find the place inside of you that keeps allowing them to happen, that keeps choosing them. The most effective path to truly saving yourself, to being the hero of your own story, is the path of radical belief based in unconditional self-love. Hope is seductive, it's romantic. They make movies about it. You may have seen or heard of the movie Hope Floats. And hope does have a purpose. Hope, when it launches you out of the darkness and into action, has done its job, and you need to move on and take action. But here's what happens. Hope feels too good. When you settle at the bliss of hope, you relinquish all ownership and control for your happiness, your joy, your fulfillment, and your freedom. Hope tricks you into thinking and feeling like you're doing something about your situation, kind of how worry does. And by kind of, I mean exactly. The only real difference between hope and worry is that hope gets to be the star of movies and worry gets vilified. Hope is like a rocking chair. It's movement. You're moving, but you're not advancing. It's a great ingredient for optimism, but it is not an effective strategy or fuel for action. Action takes belief. When you settle for hope, eventually the rose-colored glasses fall off, and you're right where you started because you haven't actually done anything about your situation. You've been hoping, but you haven't been advancing. Getting out of hope and into belief is where the real magic happens. Using the low vibrational language of, I hope something will fix me and save me, means you're relying on external forces to solve or change things for you. Hope is a stagnant energy, the same way worry is. They both become endless cycles. It's not until you change that language and the vibrational frequency to, I believe I'm the one that must take responsibility and save myself, that anything will change. Saying and acting from I believe is powerful. By getting into belief, you immediately set a high standard for yourself, a higher standard for yourself. You've created accountability, and now you must be disciplined. Accountability and discipline are the highest forms of self-love. Belief is rooted in an unconditional, no matter what, love of yourself. And self-love is based in pure and radical acceptance of all of you, all your shadows, all the things you don't love about yourself, and your current experience. Along my path of healing, I came across an exercise that became a complete game changer. I call it, see yourself, save yourself. Every day, I would stand in front of a mirror, take a deep breath, make real eye contact with myself, and repeat, I love myself, for 3 minutes. Really seeing myself and falling in love with myself allowed me to really save myself. Really seeing all of me, the shadows, the darkness, the things I'm not proud of, the things I resented and hated about myself. No conditions or judgments, just being a witness and loving myself unconditionally. After you listen to this talk, or the next time you're in front of a mirror, I encourage you to really see yourself. Not just look at yourself, not a quick glance. Take time and really see all of yourself. There's an old adage that says, there's no I in team. That's true. But there is an I in humanity. Right now, it is more important than ever for us as individuals to stop hoping and start taking action so that as a collective humanity, we can successfully learn and transform, advance to create the life that we want. Sitting on the porch hoping and rocking away is not helping. It's not advancement. So the next time you're faced with the options of continuing to hope, rock away, or taking action, ask yourself this question. Do I love myself enough to stop settling for hope and start believing in myself? Thank you.